Good afternoon. So for our warm-up today, we're going to talk a little bit more about one-point perspective, continuing what we talked about yesterday. So I'll just do a quick review of what we did yesterday, and then show you what we're doing today. So yesterday we talked about one-point perspective, we talked about a horizon line, and a vanishing point that is on the horizon somewhere. And we drew 3 boxes. We drew one below the horizon line, we drew one above, and we drew one on top of the horizon line. And then we talked about connecting all the lines, so the lines all go back towards the vanishing point. So this is a review of what we talked about yesterday before we go on to today's warm-up. One-point perspective with the boxes shooting out, and we made shapes by drawing parallel lines. And this one you only see the side. Great, so that's what we did yesterday. For today, we're going to do a little bit more one-point perspective work for our quick warm-up here, while people are still joining us. So we'll start with a horizon line again. So go ahead and draw a horizontal line, the horizon line again, and draw where you want your vanishing point. Okay. And this time, we're going to do a similar thing, except we're going to draw a bunch of different shapes, kind of overlapping and underlapping, I guess. So that's our horizon, that's our vanishing point. Good afternoon. We're just reviewing one-point perspective that we did yesterday and adding a little bit more information about one-point perspective today. So hopefully you've drawn your horizon line and a vanishing point. You can draw it lightly. I kind of made it darker so you can see, but you can erase it later. And the first one we're going to draw is going to be a shape that kind of is a little bit bigger. So I'm going to draw it kind of on top of the horizon line. So it will be like this box here. Okay. So I'll draw one there, and I'll draw one here, but a little bit lower than this one. And a little bit taller. Okay, and so the lines just go back towards the vanishing point. Try to draw really lightly to begin with, because we're going to be erasing as we go. Okay, so in this case, if you can imagine, they look like 2 buildings on either side of maybe a road. And just like we kind of defined the form a little bit here, we're going to decide how far back this building goes and draw a parallel line that's going in the same direction as this line here. If you want, you can use a ruler. I'm just kind of doodling quickly. And then the Same thing here. And they don't have to be the same, they can be different depths. But once you've done that, you can erase the extra lines because we're going to add a few more shapes behind that. So maybe keep your horizon line, but the two lines vanishing into the vanishing point you can delete for now, because you've already followed the rules for these, so we can imagine that the lines continue to the vanishing point. Okay, so when you're doing a drawing that has multiple layers, try to think about what's closest to you and draw that first. So I've drawn two buildings, that will be the closest to me, and then if I want to draw buildings kind of behind and going into the distance, yes, this is a warm-up. So you can draw another little shape that's like a rectangle, keeping in mind that part of it's going to be blocked by this building in front here. Okay, so I'll draw one like that. If you have a building behind that's a little bit taller, you can do that as well. But just keep in mind this whole block is going to be covering the shape in the back. So if it helps, you can draw your dotted line to show what the shape looks like. Okay. And again, the lines just go straight down to the vanishing point. If you're just joining now, this is a warm-up. Yesterday we talked about the 1-point perspective, just drawing boxes. Today we're kind of drawing buildings using the same concept. So we drew two big buildings in front and we're just kind of layering with extra buildings behind it. Okay, and then same thing, decide how long the building will go behind. And then you can erase those lines. Okay. Kind of like that. And you can add like doors and things. So all the things on the front of your building will be straight. Like so. Okay, maybe there's a door here. I'm gonna leave the side of the building for now because that might get confusing for you for a quick warm-up. So for now, don't put anything on the sides. We'll look at this again tomorrow. But if you want, you can add a whole bunch of windows and things to the front of your building. And the front of your building is the one that looks like the rectangle. Okay, you can design what your building looks like. But that is kind of a step further with 1-point perspective. Okay, so that is a warm-up for today, talking a little bit more about 1-point perspective. It's a really helpful concept to know. It's a little bit complicated at first, but if you keep practicing it and you start looking for things in nature that follow 1-point perspective, you're going to see it's everywhere. Okay, so for the last day of April, I thought we would draw a panda mommy, and a panda baby. So we'll start again with the basic shapes. We're going to start with the mommy panda, I think, because she's bigger. So let's draw a big circle shape for her head. Okay, big circle shape. And her body is gonna be kind of like this kind of shape. of like a round-ish potato. And one arm, like a sausage, I guess. And the other arm's behind here. And we'll draw a round shape kind of for like her hip and her thigh, because her foot's facing us, so this is called foreshortening. Basically, you're gonna see her foot in front, and this is kind of like her thigh if you're like looking directly into it. So basically her foot's pointing towards us, so we won't see the whole length of her leg, but we will see part of it. And maybe her other leg is over here. Okay. And before we draw in the ears, I'm going to add a few more shapes to the head. So we have this kind of like fatter and squished circle. We're going to draw another circle that follows kind of this side, but ends a little bit before, because this is kind of like the back of the head that goes into the neck. Okay, so this is kind of like the cheek of the panda. That's the other cheek of the panda. And if you just lightly draw a guide here, this is where one ear is going to be. Okay, so you can draw kind of like a pear shape with the point kind of pointing downwards. So that's one ear. And the other ear is on the other side. Okay. And then one more basic shape before we draw some more details. Like a little circle here for like the snout area. And that's where the nose is going to be. So this is based off a reference picture that I have, so it's of a real panda. That's why there's a few more complex shapes than my cartoon panda. Okay, hopefully everyone's okay with that. Again, we just started with the head shape and the big body shape, the limbs. We said that the foot was facing us, so we see like the bottom of the foot and like the roundness of the thigh, but not the length of the thigh. And the thigh on this leg is on the other side of her arm, so you can draw it in lightly if you need to. And then her foot's here. And then we added a few more shapes and guidelines in the face. Drew in the ears, and a little circle for where the snout's gonna be. Okay, hopefully you're ready to move on and I gave you enough time there. If not, remember you can always pause and re-watch this later on. Okay, so I'm gonna start kind of darkening some of the areas, I think. So I'll start with the ear here. Panda's ears. You can draw kind of like a little fluffy line that shows where the opening is. And then just shade it in because this part is black. If you want to color it in later, just maybe make a note that that part is black. Same thing here. Kind of draw where the opening is. and then shade it in. I'll darken around it as well. Okay. Hi. I'm home. My husband came home. I'm doing doodle time.
Have fun.
Okay. Okay, so let's continue with the top of the head here. I just made it a little bit fluffier. And on this side, I'm just gonna use small strokes to make it look fluffy as well. So I'm using the guidelines, but I'm just kind of drawing little strokes. And I'm kind of stopping at this part, which is this note. Okay, and then kind of close to the ear, I'm just going to follow that guideline that we drew and make that a little bit fluffier as well. Stopping around the snout area. Okay, and let's go to the back of the head and do that as well. Okay, so let's look at the snout. We're going to use this line kind of as is and darken it a little bit, and we're going to draw another little curve here. That's where the eye is going to be. So like a little curve. So it curves one way and then curves the other way. And we'll just go all the way around and add a few fluff lines. Okay, and then this is where the nose is going to be. So the nose starts with like a flat line up top, and then it's kind of triangular. Let's simplify it to a triangle shape, similar to my panda. Okay. Awesome. So right here where we drew the curve, we're gonna kind of fill in the eye shape. So if you were to draw a little oval or an egg shape for the eye, and then a smaller circle in the middle, and then a little shine. So that's like the pupil, and then this part is just like the black of the fur. So make like the eyeball a little bit darker so that you can actually see the difference between the eyeball and the surrounding black fur area. Okay, so now that we have one eye, we can try to draw the other eye on the other side. You're going to see a little bit more of it, but basically going to be the same shape, just mirror imaged. Kind of like that. And again, you have the little circle. That part's the darkest. And then you can shade in the rest of it. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna move on here a little bit. So we're gonna go along this line and just add some fluff lines. And here's the arm. I can't really see her claws that well, but I'll draw the hint of claws. And small strokes for the fur. And we're going to follow this kind of line that we already drew. And we're going to add a little curve here. So we're going to use our small strokes still. And just go down that way. Because the arm is going to be black as well. So I'm going to shade in lightly at first. It's better to shade in layers. So go light and then darken as you go. Yeah, I can definitely review the face again in a second. So I'm just roughly shading in the arm here. You can do a better job, take your time. So for the snout, we drew a little circle and we're just kind of following the lines. Kind of starting from here, going down and around. I added a few more fuzzy lines here. So if you can imagine, this is like the face shape that goes all the way around, and then the snout kind of sticks out. And it's a little bit higher because this isn't at the chin area, so this down here is the chin area here. Okay, I'm going to shade in a little bit so it looks like there's some shadows. And so from here, I drew a curve in the opposite direction to kind of show where the eyeball is going to be. I drew a little oval shape, and then inside that oval shape is kind of like the pupil of the eye. And then I shaded in like the dark pattern. And the other eye is like a mirror image of that eye. I will add swans to the list. You can definitely fit in swans sometime. Okay, so get back to the arm here. Okay, and since we're around this area, this is kind of where the belly is. You can imagine that's the belly. And then here's the other arm. Again, shade lightly to begin with, and then if you want to darken it, just go over it again and another layer. It's easier to control that way. Okay, and then here is the back of the panda. We're just continuing along the same line. I'm using short strokes to kind of show the fur texture. And around here, I'm going to start kind of going along like the leg curve. Because the leg is going to be black. So the leg here is black. Just shade it in lightly. And quickly for you. Okay, and my pictures doesn't show clearly what the bottom of the foot looks like, so I'm just gonna make it up here with the pad of the foot. That part I'm kind of making up. I'll have to look at the bottom of the panda's foot a little bit more in detail later on. Okay, and then continuing here, it's just like the bottom of the panda, and the other foot's on this side. And again, the foot is black. And the leg here is kind of covered by the hand, so don't have to worry about that too much. Okay, so that's kind of like the mommy panda. Now we can add a little baby panda next to her. So we have the mama panda as a kind of like a reference. So our baby panda is going to be smaller. So let's draw a little head for the panda. And a little squished body here. So I made my head and my body kind of like the same width. And in my picture, the little panda's feet are facing me. So I'm going to draw just the circles because that's all I see. And little arms. He's kind of hunched up, so the arms are going to be kind of starting at this level. And this arm's going to be like so. So if you look, both of these are kind of in the same direction. Mommy panda's arms are together. But this one little paw is maybe on Mama Panda's foot. And this little paw is on his own leg there. Okay. And we're going to add kind of the snout area, which is near the bottom. Really lightly. And little ears. You can draw them as a full circle if you like, and then just erase the extra lines after. And eyes. They're kind of ovals that slant towards each other. So those are the basic shapes. We're gonna add in some more details now. So draw the ears. I think that's what we started with for the mommy panda. So we'll start the same way. Little ears, fluffy head, fluffy or fuzzy. Side of the head, side of the head on this side, and the nose looks kind of like a heart shaped, so you can either do it the same way like a triangle, or you can make it look a little bit more heart shaped. A little smile. Okay, so that's all within this little circle that we drew. And like the chin. And for the rest of it, I'm just going to use that shape that we drew, darken it a little bit. And then the eyes are going to be a similar situation as this. So the circle, and the little shine, and then shade in the dark part. Circle, shine, shade in the dark part. Okay, and so here's his little foot because that's in front. So we're going to draw that before the arm, which is behind. And it looks like he has little claws that are like triangles. It's pretty dark. So same thing here. Little claws. Fluffy. Okay, and then his arm is gonna come down like so. And you can shade that in. And his other arm, just shading it in now. And if you want, you can draw a few more little fur strokes, because his belly is here, he's kind of hunched over. Like he's doing a sit-up or something. Okay. And that's it. That's a little baby panda with his mom. If you like, you can add bamboo stalks around him and maybe like bits of grass. I'll show you quickly how to draw a bamboo shoot if you want to draw, or a stalk of bamboo if you want to add that. So bamboo is in sections like so. So I start at the bottom. You draw a section of the bamboo and then you draw another section of the bamboo. Until you think it's tall enough. And if you notice, I'm kind of tapering it as I go. Same kind of concept as when we were drawing trees. It's thicker around the bottom, and then as it grows it gets thinner. Because science. And for the leaves, at these connections, I draw little lines that come out of it. And I kind of alternate, so I did one on this side, so I'm doing one on that side now. And then on the other side. And then on the other side. And then on those little stalks, you can draw little teardrop shaped, upside down teardrop shaped leaves. I usually do 2 or 3 on each of those. So draw the one that's on top and then fill in the ones underneath. Maybe the ones on top are standing up like that. Okay, so that's a little bonus, a little bamboo. My challenge for you today is to draw the panda bamboo forest doodle. So you can either continue this and just fill in a bunch of bamboo to make it a forest, or you can make a new drawing with different sized pandas. Maybe they're sleeping or eating something. Up to you. My inspirational quote for the day is, artists give people something they didn't know they were missing. And just a reminder, if you haven't voted in the poll, tomorrow is May, first day of May, and I thought that it would be fun if we do a daily drawing challenge together. So there are 2 lists that I'm looking at. I can't decide which one, so hopefully you can help me choose. One of them is Mermaid, and one of them is Monster Mayhem. There's also a choice if you want me to combine them both into one epic challenge, so please vote, and then we'll see you tomorrow. Bye!